Good evening to all of you, the wonderful audience of Helsinki gathered here today on this very auspicious occasion. I'm Advaita Vedanta, the chairperson of Helsinki Vedanta Association, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you all here today. It is truly my greatest pleasure and blessing to welcome with all of you Swami Sarvapriyanandaji, and to witness one of his non-parallel lectures today. Swamiji gives his first ever talk in Finland. Swami Sarvapriyanandaji is a world-renowned monk and globally admired speaker. Swamiji's numerous talks have captivated millions across the world, spanning a myriad of themes including Advaita Vedanta, Eastern and Western philosophy, and philosophy of mind. His talks and discussions with scientists, philosophers, and inquirers alike have invigorated many, and his lectures have sparked deep insights and inquiry. As a dedicated teacher, he shares his insights through illuminating lectures, making the timeless wisdom of Advaita accessible. He currently serves as the minister and spiritual leader of the Vedanta Society of New York, guiding new generations in their quest for self-realization and inner peace. Swami's tireless and non-parallel work enlightens, nurtures, and enables humans across nations, cultures, and age groups. I express my infinite gratitude for Swamiji's kind acceptance of the invitation of a currently small Advaita group here in Helsinki, and I also thank all of you gathered here, a uniquely diverse audience of inquirers, including scientists, philosophers, and artists. And without further ado, Swami Sarvapriyanandaji on consciousness, the ultimate reality.
Thank you. Can you all hear me at the back? Okay. Let me start with a chant first. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good evening and namaste, everybody. This is my first time in Helsinki, in Finland, and it's such a pleasure to be here in this beautiful, beautiful country. When I was coming here, I flew in here from London, and on the plane, Finnair, they had a documentary which said, you're going to the happiest country in the world. And also, it's the cleanest air in the world, the cleanest water in the world. So it's really a pleasure to be here. I think we all should really thank Rakendu Vadana, Yoni, Bartosz, the group, this young group, which has organized everything. We are here today just because of them. I think they deserve appreciation. Thank you for organizing this. Thank you for having me, having all of us here at this beautiful, beautiful venue. The subject, as you can see, consciousness, the ultimate reality, it's important in two ways. One is from in today's context, this is, that's also a conscious being. Swami Vivekananda used to say that I am fully convinced that even a baby is speaking the highest philosophy, but we don't understand its language. In today's context, consciousness studies is a hot subject. If you just Google the hard problem of consciousness, right now we are living in an age which is, for multiple reasons, very seriously investigating what consciousness is and trying to understand what consciousness is. Oxford University Press, a few years ago, it released, if you could Google, you can find out the 5 most important questions in philosophy. I mean, any question in philosophy, 5 most important unanswered questions in philosophy. I think most questions in philosophy are unanswered, that's why it's philosophy. But what struck me was, when I looked at those 5 questions, 4 of them were related to consciousness. It's how amazing, in the whole field of philosophy, they come up with 5 questions, and 4 of them are related to consciousness. Questions like, who am I? Questions like, what is free will? Questions like, what happens after death? So like this. So multiple questions. I think there was only 1 question about justice, global justice. Other than that, 4 questions were about consciousness. Right now, because of a multiplicity of reasons, consciousness studies is really hot. One reason is, I think, our modern new scientific imaging technologies which have come, which enable us to study the brain in much greater depth and detail than was possible earlier. I'm talking of technologies like the functional MRI scanning technologies and other things. Another reason why we are interested might be that the rise of AI. We have Adi Guru here who's working on a responsible AI. Artificial intelligence, which comes so close to what it means to be human that our attention is now drawn to the question, what does it mean to be us? What does it mean to be human? So again, interest in consciousness. So for whatever reason, we are lucky we are living in an age of interest in consciousness studies. Professor Evan Thompson was a professor of the philosophy of mind in the University of British Columbia in Canada. He writes in his book, Waking, Dreaming, Being. He says, this field of consciousness studies is not a new field. We think it's new, it's a hot field now, but it's also not a new field, it's an ancient field. He says it started 5,000 years ago on the Indo-Gangetic plains in the texts called the Upanishads. So that brings me to the second reason why this subject is interesting for me and why I had chosen this subject. The second reason is an ancient reason. Just like our modern interest in consciousness, the ancient Indians, 5,000 or more years ago, they were very interested in consciousness. Not in our modern scientific way, in a different way. The reason they were interested is they had a broader quest of who are we? How do we overcome suffering in life? How do we attain fulfillment in life? This spiritual quest. And when you have this quest, you naturally become, the first question often is, of course, who or what are we? If you're going to solve our own problems, we need to know what we are exactly. And so the interest in the self, what the ancient Hindus called the Atman. So interest in the Atman, in the self. And when you're interested in yourself, the first thing that becomes evident is consciousness, is I am aware. Whatever I am aware. I know. It is not just the ancient Hindus or modern consciousness studies, but not far from here, not far from Finland. In France, 300 to 400 years ago, the great philosopher Descartes, we all study in school Cartesian coordinates, x-axis, y-axis. But he was a great philosopher. And he's also known for what is called the cogito ergo sum. That means I think, therefore I am. His project was, he set out to doubt whatever could be doubted. And what his conclusion was that the one thing that cannot be doubted is that I exist. The conscious being, the knower, the conscious, the mind exists. Why? Because even to doubt my own existence, I have to exist. I can doubt the existence of whatever it is that we experience. It could be a dream, that we are sitting here in this beautiful venue. It could be the Matrix movie, like that. But I exist. I am seeing this. Even if it's a dream, it's still true that I am seeing it. I'm experiencing it. So I think, therefore I am. But it needn't be. David Chalmers, one of our leading philosophers of mind in the world today, he writes in one place that it's not just I think, therefore I am. He could have just as well said, I remember, therefore I am. I talk, therefore I am. I'm sitting, therefore I am. Any kind of basically he means consciousness. In our modern way of putting it, we would say that because of this conscious experience, I cannot doubt my own existence. That's the new way of putting, say, Descartes' conclusion. So, from those ancient Indians came a range of philosophical and spiritual views. What we know today as modern Hinduism and Buddhism and Jainism and multiple schools of philosophy and multiple views of consciousness. That is our subject today. One particular school, which is my home tradition, which is the school of non-dual Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, whose fundamental texts are what Professor Evan Thompson referred to, that consciousness studies began 5,000 years ago, the texts called Upanishads. So these Upanishads are the foundational texts on which what I'm going to talk about and argue today are based on that. Now I know that here there are a number of people from different departments in the University of Helsinki. There are professors here, scientists, there are doctors, there are philosophers and artists, of course. What I'm going to say, in order to understand how radical it is, it's very ancient, but it's also very radical. In order to understand and appreciate how radical it is, it's interesting to contrast it with the mainstream view of consciousness today. What I'm going to do now is draw a conceptual map, starting from how generally consciousness is understood or not understood, understood within quotes, in the mainstream, say, in science, in medicine, the physicalist, the materialist reductionist approach, brain-producing consciousness. We will start there and end up with the non-dual consciousness of Advaita Vedanta. So, to my mind, there are 5 steps. What I'm going to do now, in the next few minutes till the end of this talk, we're going to take this journey. It's a conceptual journey, and it has 5 steps. Each of them is radical. Each of them is a big jump. If you are a confirmed, materialist, someone like Daniel Dennett or somebody like that, you will argue vehemently against each of those steps. And it's good. I mean, books and books can be and have been written on each of those steps. So what we are going to do in the next 45 minutes would take multiple university-level courses to cover. So just an overview. But what we'll take away from it is a clear understanding of what Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta, proposes, what it says about consciousness and about our nature as human beings. So, 5 steps. I will not keep you in waiting. I'll tell you what the 5 steps are. Then we will take the journey. 5 steps from where to where? From our common sense, from our present scientific or scientistic, let us say, view of consciousness, from the present physicalist, materialist, reductionist view of consciousness, to the non-dual Vedantic view of consciousness. 5 steps. And I'd like to put it, the way the Vedantins, the language they use, neti neti, in Sanskrit it means not this, not this. So I'm going to use that. 5 steps, each of which is not, no. 5 negations. What is consciousness? First negation, big jump. We'll talk about it. First negation, consciousness is not brain. Consciousness is not brain, step 1. Second stop on our journey. Consciousness is not an object. Third step on our journey, consciousness is not mind. Each of them, as I said, huge. Fourth step, consciousness is not many. There are no many consciousnesses. And then, consciousness is not two, non-dual. That means there is nothing else other than consciousness. The consciousness and its object are not 2 separate entities. So 5 steps, 5 no's, 5 negations. Consciousness is not mind, consciousness is not brain, consciousness is not an object, consciousness is not mind, consciousness is not many, and consciousness is not 2. 5 steps. Let's see how far we get. The first one itself is the hot subject today. That consciousness is not brain. It has sort of been taken for granted until now. Now the perceived wisdom it's still challenged. It's not changed yet, but it's challenged. It's taken for granted that our brain is producing consciousness. Brain and nervous system, we would say how? We don't know, but it is producing consciousness. This is under challenge. And one powerful challenge comes from the philosophy of mind, from David Chalmers, who is an Australian philosopher, who is associated with, if you Google hard problem of consciousness, his name will come up. He is the professor of brain science, philosophy of mind, and consciousness studies in New York University now. He coined this term, the hard problem of consciousness. What is the hard problem of consciousness? It goes like this. Notice when you say the brain produces consciousness, what we are saying is this living organ in this skull, which is a physical thing, which doctors can examine, which you can scan, which is an object. Just like this table is an object, the brain is also an infinitely more complex and mysterious and sophisticated object, a living organ, but still it's an object, just like any other object in this universe. And yet, we are claiming this object generates what we are experiencing right now. All of us, we are seeing, we are hearing, we're smelling, tasting, touching. Now this glorious, you see the colors, you hear the sounds, this first-person experience. Our life is this. Our life is the red color of a rose. It is the taste of lemonade. It is the cold you feel on your skin in winter in Finland. All of these diverse conscious experiences, first-person experiences, this is what we call life. How is an object generating this? At the very least, the question should be asked. David Chalmers makes it more clear. He says, when you say something is producing something, you can examine every step of the way. Suppose a car factory. You go to a car factory and you see materials coming in, parts coming from different places, and they're being assembled, and at the end, a car comes out. And you can see at every step what's happening, how they're getting assembled, every step until the final product is produced. You can see it all. Whereas, when we observe the brain, and especially nowadays we can observe it very minutely, what we observe is a living organ. You observe more closely, you can find masses of tiny electrical activity, in neuronal activity. That's the last thing that can be observed. How from those masses of tiny electrical activity, how do you get color? How do you get sound? How do you get music? How do you get art? How do you get pain and pleasure? Thousands of different, millions of different subjective experiences. How do you get from bursts of electricity? You are seeing a variety of colors here. Now, corresponding to that, scientists can show that some kind of electrical activity is going on in your brain. But the connection between that electrical activity and this experience which we are having now, what's the connection? Why is this? This is called the explanatory gap. The explanatory gap. And now there are multiple responses to this. Many theories of consciousness studies are, what is consciousness? They're floating around. Robert Lawrence Kuhn. Some of you may have seen on YouTube this wonderful series called Closer to Truth. Closer to Truth. So this gentleman has been interviewing scientists, philosophers, theologians for many years now on the big questions of life, including consciousness. And he has recently written an article called The Landscape of Consciousness. It's publicly available. You can look it up. It's encyclopedic, where he has put in all the theories of consciousness which are floating around now. And he has classified it into 10 categories. 10 categories of theories of consciousness. Not 10 theories of consciousness, 10 categories of theories of consciousness. So much diverse thinking is there on consciousness. The same question, how a physical thing like the brain, like this, a physical thing, like this, how can it produce conscious experience which we are all having now? To this, I will add nowadays this presence of AI. To me, it is another argument to show that consciousness is not produced from a physical entity. Why? The artificial intelligence which we have now, ChatGPT, whatever, OpenAI, and whatever we're going to have in the future, notice it does remarkable things. Many things it does, including creativity. In New York, there is a big museum of modern art, MoMA, Museum of Modern Art, where I saw this big screen, something like this, and it is generating art, but it's an artificial intelligence. The entire museum's contents have been poured into that computer, and now it's being asked to generate art like this, and it's continuously generating art. An artist will say quote-unquote art. Whether it's really art or not, we don't know. But it's hypnotic. If you go there, the effect is undeniable. If you stand in front of it, you will be entranced, at least for a few minutes. So there's artificial intelligence is creative. It is intelligent. It drives cars. In the United States, if you go, there are self-driven Google cars without any driver. All of this it can do, but one thing it cannot do, which everybody knows. It's not conscious. You might say, how do you know that? Well, ask the experts. There are experts here. They will tell you, no, it's not designed for consciousness. In fact, not only are artificial intelligence is not designed for consciousness, here's the crux. They're not designed for consciousness. The experts will tell you we have no idea how to make these machines, these programs conscious. We have an idea how to make them intelligent. We have an idea how to make them behave creatively. We can endow them with mind, with memory and creativity and intelligence, with senses enough to drive a car. But we can't make them conscious. Which actually reinforces this, that maybe consciousness is not being produced by the brain. A question might be asked here, that how would you respond to this? There's a strong correlation between brain activity and our conscious experience. That's why people think, scientists think that brain is producing consciousness. How would you respond to that? There's a question, I'll deal with it later on, but I'll keep it there. How would you respond to the strong correlation between brain activity and our conscious experience? The ancient Vedantins, the sages in India, they did not talk in terms of brain. They just said consciousness is not the body. Consciousness is not the body. It's not a part of the body, like my kidney or my liver is part of the body. Brain is part of the body, but consciousness is not a part of the body. It's not even being produced by the body. It's not a process in the body, like many other biological processes. Why not? They gave certain arguments. And these arguments are pretty easy to grasp and we can apply them. See, one thing about this whole discussion, why is it interesting? It's interesting because it gets to the core of what we are right now. We are all conscious beings. In fact, our whole life is lived in consciousness. So we are talking about that, the essence of what we are. The arguments that the ancient masters in India gave is something like this. Notice that the body is something that is an object. This is an object. It's pretty much like what David Chalmers argues. The body is an object. The physical body is also an object. In the sense, you can see it, you can touch it, you can smell it, you can taste it. If you're hungry and your stomach is rumbling, you can hear it. The body is an object to all my senses. And so what? The object and the subject are different. In the language of the ancient masters, the seer and the seen are different. The seer means the experiencer. Notice, for example, the example of the eyes. The eyes can see everything which is at a distance from the eyes. The only thing that they cannot see are the eyes themselves. You might say, haven't you looked at a mirror? But in a mirror, you can see a reflection of your eyes. If you take a selfie, you can see a picture of your eyes. But the way my eyes are seeing you, they cannot see themselves directly. The seer and the seen, the subject and the object, they have to be distinct entities. This is a principle in philosophy. It says that a thing cannot operate upon itself. Self-reflexivity is not allowed in philosophy. So it's regarded as a logical fault. So, I am a conscious being, and to me this table is an object. I am not it. Similarly, the body is an object, and therefore I, the conscious being, am not the body. I must be something distinct from the body. The subject must be something distinct. The body is still there, and I still feel embodied, but I am not literally bones or flesh or organs in that sense. Distinction between consciousness and the body. Another powerful, I think, to my mind, I like this argument. It's a subtle argument. It's a variation on the first argument. Seer and seen, subject and object. I am aware. I am conscious. Nobody doubts that. And I'm conscious of the body. The body is not conscious of me. It's a strange way of thinking. This hand is not conscious of this hand. But I am conscious of both. This hand does not say to this, hello, we meet again. No. It is not aware of itself. It is not aware of this or anything else. But I am aware of this hand, and I'm aware of this hand, and I'm aware of myself. So, I am conscious, I am an aware entity, and the body is not an aware entity. It's not aware of itself, it's not aware of anything else, it's not aware of me. But I am aware of it, and I'm aware of everything else, I'm aware of myself. So this argument, it's a subtle argument. I hope you see the flavor of this argument. That this awareness and the not aware, in Sanskrit, chit jada, sentient, insentient, they cannot be the same thing. There's a tremendous difference between the two. A couple of more arguments, then we'll move ahead. One argument at least. So a philosopher in New York put this argument to me. Said, yeah, but you know, it is that the brain is producing consciousness. It is true that we cannot demonstrate exactly how the electrical impulses in the brain are producing consciousness. However, give us time. We will be able to demonstrate in 40 or 50 years. This is called promissory materialism. I promise to demonstrate how it's a school of it's actually a serious contention. And then he actually gave me this argument. He said that, look, at one time, 100 years back, people thought life is a mystery. And now we are able to explain life down to the molecular level. It's a good enough explanation. So in time, in 40, 50 years, we'll be able to explain consciousness to your satisfaction. But we need 40, 50 years. I gave him this consciousness, not consciousness, sentient, insentient argument. I said, you cannot, in principle. Life is explained in terms of molecular processes in organic matter. That is understandable. In principle, it's fine. Philosophically speaking, a complex, objective phenomenon has now been explained at a fundamental, objective level. Complex phenomena explained in terms of fundamental phenomena. That's what's called explanation. But now what you're saying is, your entire subjective life will be given an objective explanation. You will explain consciousness in terms of non-consciousness. It's what's called in philosophy a category jump. He was not impressed by that argument. Anyway, I'll just say one more thing and move on to the second step. 25 years ago, something interesting happened. One of the leading neuroscientists, Christoph Koch, he was the chief scientist of the Paul Allen Brain Institute, and he had a materialistic view of what consciousness is, although he has changed his view somewhat in the last several years. He and David Chalmers, who came up with the phrase hard problem of consciousness, they had a debate and a bet, a challenge. Christoph Koch said to David Chalmers that the way neuroscience is advancing, the way brain science is advancing, within 25 years, we'll be able to explain consciousness in terms of brain processes. Within 25 years. And David Chalmers used this argument that you cannot explain something that is this pure subject in terms of objective processes. You cannot. You will not be able to do that. So let's have a bet. They bet. I think a case of champagne or something like that, they bet. And then they forgot about it. Just last year, somebody pointed out to Christoph Koch and David Chalmers, 25 years have passed. This was in 1999. So last year, 25 years have passed. What happened to the bet? And they had a meeting again in NYU, and there Christoph Koch admitted that, I must say, we have made no progress, no significant progress, no theoretical progress, no progress in principle in trying to explain how the brain produces consciousness. We have, neuroscience has advanced a lot in the last 25 years. But theoretically speaking, there is no advance whatsoever in terms of explaining consciousness. Many theories are there. And that's somebody told me, oh, this field of consciousness studies is an immature field. Why? Because none of the terms are clearly defined. When you have a wide variety of theories, that shows the field is still immature. When you have 10 categories of theories trying to explain the same phenomena, same entity consciousness, it shows that the modern field of consciousness studies is still getting off the ground, All right. So that's step one. Consciousness is not the brain. Not proved, but I'm saying Advaita Vedanta says that. That's what it holds. These are the arguments. And now we are actually at an interesting place. That see the opposite of what could have been. It could have been that consciousness was well explained in terms of brain processes. It could have been. I don't know how, but suppose it had been. Then we would not be having this talk. We would not be interested. See, for example, I was just thinking while coming here, we are coming together to explore an ancient Indian philosophy of consciousness. Nobody is interested in ancient Indian philosophy of kidney. Nobody is interested in. We think though I think ancient medicine systems have a lot to offer, but anyway, we have advanced so much in our science, biological and physics and so on. We are not interested except as history in those ideas, ancient ideas. But as far as consciousness is concerned, we are seriously interested. This talk I have given talks to scientists and philosophers in India and in the United States and other places. Why are they interested? It's because it's not clear yet what consciousness is. So we need to consider these different options. Moving on. Next. Step 2. Consciousness is not an object. And here it becomes very interesting. One problem is that we tend to treat everything as objects. And the reason for that is science. That's how science works. And it works very well. Over the last 200, 300 years, it has 200 years or so, it's become ingrained among scientists, but among all of us, whoever has gone through school and college, we all tend to think of things as objects independent of the subject. And why we think that way, I think that's because science works that way. Science works very well when you leave the subject out of it, just consider it objectively. Now, in fact, truth and objectivity, the same word almost. But when we try to study the subject, and with this kind of preconceived notion, anything that's real must be an object, then we try to make the subject into an object, and then all the problems come. It's not just Vedanta or Buddhism. I mean, modern philosophy of mind also, they are beginning to face this problem, that what is clearly the subject, we're trying to make it an object and then study it. For example, people say in consciousness studies, we are studying the consciousness of an octopus. Why? It's very interesting. Octopus has a very distributed intelligence. But notice how interesting. We are all conscious beings. We have consciousness right here. We are conscious. But how do you study consciousness? Not here. We'll study it in the octopus, there. Object. In India, we have a saying, you can catch your nose like this, or you can catch it like this. Because we are not willing to take up the subject seriously, we look at the object. There is an ancient Indian story, very important in this regard. I've told it many times, but it's important to tell it here. The story of the 10 friends who crossed a river. They crossed a river, and then they thought, have we all crossed or did somebody drown? Let's count. And one of them counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God, the 10th man has drowned. 10th man is not there. The other said, let me count, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Everybody counted. They all found 9 people. And they started crying. Obviously, our friend has drowned. And then another person passes by and says, my friends, why are you crying? Oh, our friend, the 10th person, we were 10 when we started. Our friend, the 10th person, has drowned. How do you know? Because he must have seen that there are 10 people. We counted. There are only 9. So this man realized what was happening. And he said, don't cry. The 10th person is there. You know, like the guru comes or the texts come and say, you are the Atman, Brahman, or God is there. Don't cry. And these people, they say, 10th person is there. Where? I'll show you. Oh, relax. Show us. Well, count. One of you count. Well, you have counted, sir. Count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I told you 9. And this man comes and takes his hand, turns it around. 10. You are the 10th. And he goes, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I found the 10th person. This is amazing. And everyone says, let me try. And they all find the 10th person. Okay, so this is a story. But it's a pretty profound story. It's a very profound story, actually. I often asked after telling this story, why couldn't they find the 10th person? The reason is because they were not counting themselves. That's true. They were not counting themselves. The counter was not counting himself. But now the interesting question is, why was this person not counting himself? This is a more difficult thing to answer. Why was he not counting himself? And the reason is, where did he find the other 9? He found the other 9 out there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And he has very good reason to expect that the 10th person should be there. The guy should be there. He is not there, so the 10th person is absent. Why does he think the 10th person is there? Because everybody he found till now, 1 to 9, they are all objects to him. So he expects the 10th person to be an object out there. Because the 10th person is not like those 9. The 10th person is the subject. The 10th person is the consciousness to which those 9 are appearing. Similarly, this is most important. Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, and some schools like in Buddhism you have Madhyamaka and Vijnanavada. Some schools are there, Tibetan Buddhism, to my knowledge. They make this point. It's not an object. Now, the moment you say it's not an object, I remember the typical reaction in academia or in today's world. Oh, you mean it's something subjective like poetry? So it's something less than real. In that case, something less than real. I remember in the Harvard philosophy department, when I was talking like this, one of these young kids, very, very smart young kids, he says, I'm trying to see what you're saying. Perhaps this is not the place for that discussion. You should be in the literature department or in the arts. For them, it's not real. What is more than real? All reality. Descartes would say, all reality can be doubted, but this one cannot be doubted. Descartes writes in his Meditations, I think, therefore I am. And then he says, it is passing strange that which I know, that which I know so much about, the world, I can never be sure of it. It could be wrong. It could be like a Matrix movie. It could be a dream. It could be an illusion. And that which I am totally sure of myself, I know nothing about it. So this, because it's not an object. Not being an object does not mean it's not real. It's real. It is real. It is that which is always present, but we miss it because it's not an object. I love that story of Mullah Nasruddin, the many funny stories, but very, very incisive stories. So this Mullah Nasruddin, he used to go and trade, going from one country to another. And the border guard at the border, like immigration, they will check. The guy was sure that this Mullah Nasruddin must be smuggling something, but what it is he could never catch. The Mullah Nasruddin would come on his donkey loaded with goods, and this guy would check everything. Nothing, he couldn't find anything. Year after year, Mullah Nasruddin crossed the border and the border guard checked, always suspicious, never found it. Many years later, border guard had retired. Mullah Nasruddin comes with his goods and stuff. They sit down and have a cup of tea. And the guard says, look, I am not an official now, I'm retired. But I have this question, burning question. I know you're a smuggler. But I don't know what is it that you are smuggling. Every time you come and I search, I never found anything at all. Tell me the truth. What is it that you're smuggling? And Mullah Nasruddin laughs and says, donkeys. so, like the donkey which is always present. Consciousness is always present, most obvious, and yet it's not an object. Consciousness is not an object. That's why whenever all these theories of consciousness come up, mystery of consciousness solved, you'll find every 15 days or 1 month, one idea will come up. And everywhere you will find, when you look a little closely at the article, they will point to some activity in the brain, some structure in the brain, or something else, complexity, or something behavioral, something objective. That's the point in which I stop. Done. There will always be a jump. I love this cartoon which I saw. A PhD student, he's presenting his calculations to a group of academicians, and his guide is standing there. In the cartoon they show, full of mathematics. The board is full of mathematics. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So step 1, 2, 3, full of equations. Step 4, step 5, again equations. Step 4, a miracle. Step 4 is a miracle. And the guide is telling the student that, I think you need to work on step 4. All the theories that we are dealing with now, literally all the theories, almost all the theories which we are dealing with now, is like that. There will be a step 4, a miracle. And then consciousness explained. I always say consciousness explained away. No, it's not an object. It is like the 10th man. And that's the technique which is used in Advaita Vedanta to realize our nature. What is consciousness? Instead of trying to objectify it, whatever comes up as an object, I am not it, I am the witness of it. So, here is the body. It's an object. I am not it, I am the witness of this body. I am the experiencer of this body. I am aware of this body. Then make it more subtle, more inward. You can try it yourself. Breathe in and breathe out. The breathing itself, I am aware of it, so it's an object. I am not the breath. Make the mind more subtle. Look inwards. Thoughts, emotions, memories, ideas. But those are also objects. I'll come to that in the third step. Those are also objects because I'm aware of it. So I am not it. And you go further. If you go further, shut out the world, still the body, turn your mind away from the breath, from the mind itself. If you turn inwards, you'll hit a blank. Blank, yeah, nothing. But that blank is also an object because it's appearing to you. And then you are that to which all of these objects are appearing and disappearing. But that one, don't try to catch it. Trying to catch it means objectifying. So this is the technique of inwardization used. If you will find it in one of the Upanishads called the Taittiriya Upanishad, where the human personality is analyzed into 5 levels, each subtler and more inward than the earlier. Physical level, in Sanskrit, annamaya. It means a product of food, a modification of food. What we eat and drink, this is called the food sheath, the food covering. Then you look inwards, breath, which is the tip of prana, the life forces which sustain the physical body. That also is an object. Then you look further inwards, called the manomaya, the mind sheath. Thoughts, memories, cogitating, feelings. But those are also objects. Like we're counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Mind. You look further, intellect. It's a function of the mind, the one which we are using now to try to understand all this. Intellect. That also, the capacity to understand, that also is an object. And when we look further inwards, you will hit a blank. In Sanskrit, it's called the Anandamaya, the bliss sheath. Now, what you have to do is there as we have inwardized and made our attention subtle, we look inwards up to the blank, and then with the question, to whom or to what are these five appearing? Just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like that. Try it at home, not while driving. Then, so the mind, the consciousness is not an object. It's like the 10th man. Third, now it becomes even more interesting. Consciousness is not the mind. Why this step is important? In modern consciousness studies, if you ask, what are you studying? Basically, they're studying the mind. What is being studied in consciousness studies? Memory, feelings, ideas, attitudes, perception, pleasure, pain, all mental. And here comes Vedanta saying, that's also not consciousness. Why? Because those are objects to consciousness. Now at this point we can define, what's an object? A philosopher, an Indian philosopher, Arindam Chakravarti, beautifully put it this way. He said, an object is anything that objects to your consciousness. So think of consciousness as a field. And in that field, as it spreads out, it hits people, chairs, colors, sound. These are objects. Anything that you can categorize as this is an object. This table, this cup, this body, this sound, this color, this pain, this idea, this memory, they're all objects. So mind is also object, it's not consciousness. Consciousness is not mind. Consciousness is the witness of mind. Witness means experiencer, illuminer of the mind. Third step. Then you go further. How many consciousnesses are there? We might think, well, there are 100 people present, 200 people present, so there must be 200 consciousnesses. There are now what? 7 or 8 billion people on this planet, 7 billion or 8 billion people on the planet, 8 billion consciousnesses. Then animals have consciousness, plants have consciousness, so billions and billions of consciousnesses, or one. I will not go into the arguments here, but I'll indicate the line of argumentation. So there are schools of philosophy in ancient India which said many consciousnesses. For example, the very ancient school of Sankhya. They said, we are consciousness, but we are all separate consciousnesses. Each one is for separate. And the non-dual school, which we are talking about, they challenged the Sankhya school and said, not many consciousnesses, one consciousness. One or two sample arguments, and then we will move ahead. So what the non-dualists do, the Sankhyans are dualists in the sense that there are two ultimate realities, subject and object, consciousness and matter, material nature. So the whole universe, including the body and the mind, is material nature, and you are consciousness. But how many consciousnesses? They will say many consciousnesses. Now what the non-dualists do is, they reverse the question. They ask the Sankhyans, why do you say there are many consciousnesses? For example, are there many bodies here? Yes, you can count. There are 200 bodies here. Are there many minds here? Yes, you count. That's an opinion poll. That's a psychological test. That's an examination in school. You get many, many answers. Clearly, there are many minds working here. But if you are separating consciousness from body and mind, would you say that there are many consciousnesses or one consciousness? It seems common sense that many consciousnesses. So the Sankhyan says many consciousnesses, and the non-dualist asks, why do you think so? And the arguments are like this. Well, if there was one consciousness, then the birth of one person would be the birth of everybody. The death of one person would be the death of everybody. But then the non-dualist replies, birth is birth of the body. Death is death of the body. The birth and death of the body can happen without birth and death of consciousness, because we have already established that consciousness is not the brain, not the body. It's not an object, it's not the mind. So then the Sankhyan says, but if we were all one consciousness, one person falls asleep, everybody would fall asleep. If one person wakes up, everybody would wake up if we're all one consciousness. The non-dualist replies, waking, dreaming, sleeping, coma, meditation, being high on drugs, whatever it is, They are all functions of the mind, not consciousness. Here, I will just touch upon that question. If you put this question, modern neuroscientists would put this question to Sankhya, Vedanta. If consciousness is not the brain, how do you account for the tight correlation between our conscious experience and brain activity? There's neuronal activity corresponding to our pain, pleasure, sight, sound, and so on. The answer from an Advaita perspective would be this, or Sankhya perspective, is that they did not talk about the brain, but projecting their arguments. They would probably say that the brain is engaged in providing objects for consciousness. So every experience that you have, I am seeing color, something is some electrical activity is going on in some part of the visual cortex. That is giving me the color to be conscious of. I am feeling pain, and some C neurons or something, that C receptors or something that's there. So neuroscientists can tell you, those are firing. Good, they are giving me the impulse which my consciousness identifies as pain. So the objects are being produced and being provided to consciousness by neuronal activity. Neuronal activity is tightly intertwined with mind. So they are providing the objective side of conscious experience. What is conscious experience? What is experience? Experience is consciousness plus object. Bring some object before consciousness, think of it as a light, and objects brought into the light, there is illumination. So objects brought to consciousness, there is experience, what we call experience. And so the tight correlation between our experience and brain activity is because the objects experienced keep changing, so our experiences keep changing. That does not mean consciousness is coming and going or being produced. So there are these arguments. Even knowledge. One Sankhyan argument is, if we were all consciousness, one consciousness, then if my guru is enlightened, my master is enlightened, we would all become enlightened. That would be so nice. You just download all the knowledge from the professor. We're all one consciousness. But that doesn't happen. The non-dualist replies, see, knowledge and ignorance are functions of the mind. The same consciousness can illumine the knowledge in the guru's mind and can illumine the ignorance in the disciple's mind. Consciousness remaining the same. So, consciousness is not many. The argument that the non-dualist makes is, you cannot distinguish consciousness from consciousness. Think it will lead to many problems in principle. For example, if consciousness and consciousness are different, then one consciousness will become an object to another consciousness. Then consciousness will no longer remain the subject, it will become an object. Notice, someone might say, but the people around, they are conscious, so I am conscious of them, so I am conscious of their consciousness. No. We are conscious of each other's, we are conscious of each other's bodies. We are conscious of each other's behavior. We are conscious of each other's language. And if you were a telepath, you would be conscious of the thoughts of other people, but you would never be conscious of their consciousness. Consciousness is that pure subject which never becomes an object. Therefore, the subtle claim is consciousness is one in all beings. And then the final step. I'm doing good for time. The final step is most counterintuitive. Let's take stock of where we have come so far. We have come, first of all, we have distinguished consciousness from the body. We are saying consciousness is not the body, it's not produced by the body, by the brain or the nervous system. By the way, that would mean if the body dies, consciousness won't die. If the consciousness is not a product of the body, then if the body dies, why should consciousness die? It's like your data, which is in a computer. If the computer dies, if your data is backed up to the cloud, it still exists in some form. You can back it, you can download it. In fact, Vedanta would say, not only Vedanta, Buddhism, all these schools. In fact, all religions of the world will say this one thing. You do not die with the death of the body. Something continues after the death of the body. That means that something cannot be entirely material. Because clearly at the death of the body, the material part of our existence is gone. It's destroyed. It's burnt or cremated or whatever. And in Vedanta, even the mind continues. That's what is called the Jivatma, the sentient being. So the whole idea of reincarnation from one body to another body, to one lifetime to another lifetime to another lifetime. But consciousness is not even that. Consciousness is that which illumines the entire process from the Vedantic perspective. Next, we said consciousness is not an object. It is that to which all are objects. So we have made a clear distinction between consciousness and everything else. Between the pure subject. Why I'm saying pure subject, pure consciousness is because of this. Taking the word subject seriously. Notice how we use the word subject in our everyday language. We use it as a mixture of subject and object. For example, in our ordinary language, we'll say, I am the subject, and this is all objective. But when I say I am the subject, I'm already including the body. I'm including the personality. I'm including the mind, the memory, this individual guy, this orange guy. But this guy is completely an object. This body is an object. Whatever is happening inside the body is an object. Your doctor can see better than I. It's an object. Even the thoughts are an object. Even for me, the consciousness. Memories, even the whole personality is an object. So, consciousness is not an object. The third thing we realized was consciousness is not even the mind. At this point, notice the benefits of this kind of analysis. Most of our suffering is because of the close embrace we have got on the physical part of our existence, the body. Body is sick, it's in pain. I am in pain. No. You are consciousness aware of the pain in the body. One master said, put it very beautifully. How do you apply this knowledge? Keep things where they belong. Keep things where they belong. This glass cup with water, it belongs on the table. I don't put it, I'm seeing it. I don't put it on my head because I'm seeing it. No, it belongs there on the table. I am the one seeing it. That does not mean that I am a cup of water. I am experiencing the cup of water. Similarly, apply this. And it's a fact. If there's a pain, once I did this and a young boy in the audience started pinching himself. So what are you doing? I'm trying to see if the Swami is right. Body is an object. I can see it. I'm aware of it. Pain, this question is asked. Look, the body is not like the table. If I hit the table, no problem for me. But if I hit the body, it hurts. So I can't say the body is an object. But the answer is the pain. The pain is also an object. How does that help me? It helps me because then the pain is in the body. It is in the prana. It is in the mind. It's not in me. Just like the cup is on the table, keep the pain in the body where it belongs. This is an adjustment we make mentally. We become aware of the body and we become aware of the pain in the body also. You can try it out on small cases. Before enlightenment, one shouldn't, it's like, so now I can face the pain of an operation or cancer. No, be careful. Not so fast. It can be done, but at a much more advanced level. Right now, our identification with the body is very visceral. It's not intellectual. It's the way we live. So pain in the body immediately becomes my pain. Further, even more interesting, pain in the mind, depression, unhappiness. You might say, the Finnish people might say, what is unhappiness? Don't you know we are happy? All right, happiness also. Interesting. Happiness, unhappiness, pleasure, pain, they are physical, they are mental. They are like cup on table, not cup on your head. So cup on table, pain in the body, pleasure, pleasure and pain in the body, in the mind, depression, unhappiness or excitement in the mind. It's there. No escapism here, no avoidance. But we know, just stick to the facts. And when we stick to the facts, we say, I am, instead of saying, I am very depressed, it's so horrible. I am aware of the horrible feeling of depression in the mind. I am not depressed. I am the awareness which saw there was no depression earlier, like a cloud in the sky. I am the awareness which saw the bright blue sky without any clouds. And it's like the same sky with dark clouds. I am aware of the dark clouds of depression in the mind. And then I'm the same awareness which is again aware of the bright blue sky without any clouds, without any depression. Note that this is a fact. It's not a practice, it's not positive affirmation. It's just a fact, the way things are right now. Choicelessly so. You are choicelessly awareness and choicelessly free of the problems of the body and of the problems of the body, of the mind and of the problems of the mind, even when body and mind are there. Just as the space, sky, is free of the clouds, even when the clouds are there. It's not touched by the clouds. There may be heavy rainfall and humidity. Atmosphere becomes humid. The earth becomes wet. Sky doesn't become wet. Yeah, he gets it. So like that, in awareness is compared to a mirror in which reflections appear. What appears in the mirror does not affect the mirror. What appears in consciousness does not affect you. But it depends on you because you illuminate. And then we saw even further, it is one consciousness. Think of the tremendous implications of that. We are all one being. I and him, all of us are you. You and him and her and all of them are me. We are one being, not just brothers or sisters, not just all God's children. They're all good ideas. But this is more radical. We are literally one being. And therefore, implication, the suffering of one becomes the suffering of others. As I seek to remove the suffering in this one body and mind, I should also equally seek to remove the suffering in all bodies and minds, in principle. So the ground of ethics. Why should I be ethical? Why should I be selfless? Why should I tell the truth? Why should I be honest and caring? It is because you and I are one being. To hurt you is to hurt myself. It's an unenlightened way of living. Why is altruism so pleasing? Selflessness. See, the unenlightened way of living is selfish way. Everything for me. All pleasure and Facebook likes and everything for me. I, for me. And I try it year after year after year, decade after decade, and here I am. Am I happy? Have I finally become happy? Lastingly, deeply? No. No. It's all slipping away from my hands. But the least thing that I do, without any philosophy, the least thing that we do for somebody else, that becomes a source of satisfaction to us lifelong. Especially if you do it without any thought of return. Why does it feel so sad? It should feel like a loss. I gave my time away. I gave my money away. I gave praise and encouragement. Somebody expecting nothing in return. So it should be a loss. But we feel somehow, we feel fulfilled. Because it's the truth. We are one consciousness. We are one being. And now we go to the last, the final stage. We are not only one consciousness. You still see there's a difference between I, the consciousness, and everything else, all objects, subject and object. One consciousness plus the entire universe is an object to us. Now the last one, I will not argue for it. It's a huge subject. Whatever appears to you in consciousness, this entire objective universe, the claim is it's an appearance to you, the consciousness, step one. It's an appearance in you, the consciousness, step two. It is nothing other than you, the consciousness. Let me repeat. The universe appears to consciousness, one. Appears in consciousness, two. Is nothing other than consciousness. It is not a countably second reality apart from consciousness. What do I mean here? Let me give an example, which is a favorite example in Vedanta. It's a dream example. Dream example. In Sanskrit, swapna drishtanta, dream example. What's a dream example? When we dream, when we fall asleep every day and we dream, we've forgotten that we are sleeping. We don't even know that we are dreaming. It feels like a real life, waking life. Now when we wake up and look back at the dream, if you remember the dream, then we consider the dream. Notice some facts about it. One, everything in that dream was me, the dreamer. I, the dreamer, imagined the whole thing. In the dream, I was there. Maybe I am there talking to my friends. I feel I am this one, those are my friends, this is a chair, and I'm talking to people who are sitting on chairs. But when I wake up, I will realize the friends, the chairs, the talking, all of it, the space, all of it was my mind. Is this understood? Is this true? This is a dream example. Subject, object, activities, work, everything done in the dream is nothing other than the dreamer's mind. Now the same claim is being made. You, the one consciousness, we, the one consciousness, to whom this material universe and these bodies, they're all appearing, these are nothing but I, the one consciousness. I appear to myself as my universe. This universe, which seems to be separate, an object, we began with separating subject and object. Now we are absorbing the object back into the subject. This universe is not a countably second thing apart from myself, the consciousness. In our dreams, if you see 100 people, if I see 100 people in my dreams, I am there, 100 people, 101. But when I wake up, what will happen? I'll realize there were not 100 people there. There was only one really, the dreamer, appeared as 100 people. Similarly, it is one consciousness appearing as a material universe, millions of bodies and minds, and millions of individual entities. Krishna says in the Gita, undivided in all beings, appearing to be divided. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva cha sthitam. Undivided in all beings, appearing to be divided. What is that? One consciousness. What is that? It's you. Quick implications of this, and I promise to wind up. In the dream, wherever you go in the dream, whomever you see in the dream, whatever happens in the dream, all throughout the dreamer's mind is present right there. Similarly, in this universe, in our lives, wherever we go, whatever happens to us, good, bad, ugly, it is that one consciousness always present there. It is you. It's not anything apart from you. Second, nothing. All right, one more thing. The dream, when we wake up, we realize, first thing we say is, oh, it's all right, it was just a dream. So we don't take the dream as real. If I eat a cookie or biscuit, and I like it, and I dream that I'm eating 3 more biscuits, and I wake up in the morning, I've taken too much sugar, 1 waking biscuit and 3 dream biscuits, so 4 biscuits. No, you cannot count the 3 dream biscuits, because they did not exist. From your waking perspective, they were imagination. Similarly, here the claim is this entire physical universe is an appearance of consciousness. It's not a second reality apart from consciousness. Third, one more point. Nothing that happens in the dream actually affects you. It may be a nightmare. You may suffer terribly in the dream, but when you wake up, you say, oh, thank God. Nothing in the dream can harm you, but equally, nothing in the dream improves you also. You get $1 million in lottery in the dream, you wake up, oh, it's gone. It's not there. You eat pizza in the dream, and time to wake up, put it in the dream fridge. Tomorrow when I will dream, I will eat the pizza again. No, you cannot. It's gone. Nothing that happens in the dream ultimately changes you, the waking person. Similarly, nothing in this world of appearance can affect you, not the body. Body can be affected. COVID can come and kill the body. Hunger and thirst will affect. Misery and suffering may come in life. But you, this one limitless consciousness, is not affected by what appears in it. So these are some of the implications. Summing up, what is consciousness? 5 big claims. Consciousness is not brain. Consciousness is not object. Consciousness is not mind. Consciousness is not many. And consciousness is non-dual, not two. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Thank you so much. Thank you.